Welcome to the Loaded Cannon after a crazy, crazy game of football at Anfield. As you already know, hit the like button. If your team is top of the league, make sure you do that nice and early. And let's get into my 5 at 5. Number 1, and unbelievably, after all of the drama and craziness of that incredible game between Liverpool and Arsenal, the most crazy thing actually didn't come from a footballer, a manager, or even a fan. It came from the linesman. You know what I'm talking about. Konstantin Hatzidakis had a moment of absolute madness and at half time seemed to, not a proper elbow, but seemed to sort of elbow Andy Robertson in the throat, which was just absolutely crazy. It comes just a few weeks after Alexander Mitrovic kind of touched and manhandled an official in the FA Cup game between Fulham and Manchester United and has been hit with an 8-game ban that the FA are actually appealing for being too lenient. They want to really make an example out of Alexander Mitrovic and increase the length of that ban. So my question to you is, after seeing both incidents, should they be treated the same? Or should the referee, the linesman in this case rather, actually be given an even more severe ban than Alexander Mitrovic? It was absolutely crazy. I've seen nothing like it in my life watching football, where it's actually an official being aggressive to Robertson. I know Robertson wasn't exactly calm towards him, but he didn't seem to do anything that I would feel like he needs to get a ban for or anything in terms of actually putting his hands on the linesman. But what Hatzidakis did was absolutely crazy. What do you think the outcome should be? Should it be an even more severe ban than a player would have got for it? And if the FA want to make an example out of anyone, should it be the linesman or should it be Alexander Mitrovic? Crazy, crazy scenes. But you know what? Football always manages to surprise. Number 2, and the second silliest thing that happened in the game yesterday, was that moment by Granit Xhaka. And now it's an interesting one. Arsenal are having a great season, and that obviously means the fans love the players. So, in a season like this, where the relationship between fans and players is so good, generally the fans are going to take the side of the player. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of Arsenal fans saying that no, blaming the result or the way the game swung in terms of the momentum on what Granit Xhaka did in that silly moment with Trent Alexander-Arnold is just media bias and the media narrative. And actually they don't believe in it. I, for one, do. And we've made the same silly mistake that we made against Anfield last year, that we made against Liverpool at Anfield last year, where Mikel Arteta and Jurgen Klopp had that sort of coming together, which again riled the fans up. It didn't make the difference last year because Liverpool battered us anyway. But this year, Xhaka doing that to Trent really annoyed me. And even as soon as I saw it happening, before Sky Sports spoke about it, I just thought to myself, Granit, what on earth are you doing? You have to play the game with a professional head. When you've got something to play for, truly something to play for, you have to play the game on a professional level, not on a personal level. Many of you watching this will play football yourselves, and if you play football competitively, sometimes we're just human beings. The motivation of the game sometimes isn't enough. It's obviously enough when you've got a trophy to play for, but when you're mid-table and there's not much riding on the game, you need to find that motivation from somewhere else. Even anyone that's watched The Last Dance would recall Michael Jordan talking about the fact that sometimes he just needed to create an argument, almost like a sub-narrative within the game, just to give him that extra desire, that extra fire and motivation he needed to unlock another level of performance. Now, when Liverpool this season are going into nothing to play for territory, why give them that narrative within a game to fire them up? For me, that's exactly what Granit Xhaka did. Now, many of you might be sitting there thinking, just because Granit Xhaka did that doesn't mean we conceded the goal, and you're absolutely right. What Granit Xhaka did, on another day, we would have got away with. We would have gone into half-time without conceding the goal, and actually, by the time you come out for the second half, it's sort of forgotten. But that's the risk that you run when you play the game on that emotional, personal level, and you let your pride and your ego get in the way of what's best for the team. We saw Gabriel Jesus in the first half playing such an effective game management ploy, taking the ball into the corner, winning free kicks, calming it down. And it was actually Gabriel Jesus who was the one that was pushing Xhaka away. I was saying to him, what are you doing? You can't do this. Now, Granit Xhaka, we know he's got this hot-headed side to him, and I was really, really disappointed in him that it came out in the game against Liverpool. Because unfortunately, it did fire them up, it did fire the fans up, and that was compounded even more by that ending up in a goal just before half-time, which really fired them up. I was very, very disappointed, and it's something that we really, really have to learn on and not let that fire get in the way. The right way to do it is a good, fair tackle. You go and hammer someone in that and you win the ball cleanly. I even recall Gary Neville talking about this in one of these Sky Sports shows that he does. And he was talking about how Alex Ferguson was saying to him in a particular game, whatever you do, don't rile the fans up. And he took someone out with a tackle. And again, it kind of went pear-shaped for them, if I remember it correctly. So great managers, great players, ex-professionals, people that are involved in the game, especially at a ground like Anfield, are all saying it does make a difference. So as a fan, I'm going to trust those ex-professionals in a part of the game that we haven't experienced with 40-odd thousand people, 50-odd thousand people, influencing the game. I think it's one of those ones where we can take it on trust, and Granit Xhaka needs to learn from that. Very, very disappointed, but the team should and could have done better in terms of standing up to that and sort of taking the fire out of the game. But unfortunately, we weren't able to cling on before half-time. Simple question for number 3. Is this 1 point gained or 2 points lost? I'm going to say 1 point gained, because when you look at the tail of the tape, the XG and how that changed from the first half to the second half, how many big chances Liverpool had, 8 big chances, I think 17 shots. Actually, do you know what? They battered us. And if it wasn't for Aaron Ramsdale having an unbelievable second half, we would have lost that game. And even Liverpool missing a penalty as well with Mohamed Salah. Crazy in a way when you look back at that game that we survived only conceding 2 goals, whilst Liverpool's XG was actually up at around 4. So, for me, it's 1 point gained. Let me know what you think. 1 point gained or 2 points lost. Number 4, substandard subs. Now look, I know Martin Odegaard didn't have the best game. He didn't sparkle in what was in the first 40 minutes a sparkling performance. In fact, when I look at it, he had 86% accurate passes, which actually he would like to have more. He had 0% successful dribbles, 0% accurate crosses, and he wasn't doing very well in his ground duels, winning only 1 out of 5 at 20%. So yes, room for improvement there in his performance. But taking him off for Jacob Kiwior was, for me, a crazy substitution. Kiwior came on, made an error straight away in the middle of the park that set Darwin Núñez through on goal. That was one of Ramsdale's first saves of his hat-trick of brilliant saves. And then after that, Kiwior only had 1 touch and 1 misplaced pass in his 10 minutes on the pitch. So I'm very surprised that Mikel Arteta chose to do that. I would have thought that he'd go with a different angle. And I appreciate that, with Saliba out, we don't have as many defensive options on the bench. But I just thought it was the incorrect substitution, and actually it didn't work for us. So Mikel Arteta in the last 10 minutes, I felt like the pressure got piled on even more as a result of the substitute he made. I, in fact, would rather have kept Martin Odegaard on, because his work rate, his pressing is always so good. And on the counter-attack, when the game did open up, he probably would have had the quality that Martinelli seemed to lose in the second half when he was playing a bit too much with his head down and a bit too much adrenaline. I reckon Martin Odegaard's a sort of player that would have been able to keep it cool. Let me know if you agree or not with that, or if you think it was the right substitution for Mikel Arteta to make. Number 5, 6 + 1 equals, no, not 7, equals a trophy, with a big, big if. So, let's get this straight. Arsenal are now on 73 points and we've got 8 games remaining. If we win 6 games, draw against Man City at the Etihad and lose 1 game, we finish on 92 points. Now, for Man City, they're on 67 points. If they win all of their remaining 9 games other than the game against Arsenal at the Etihad, which if they draw, they will end up getting 92 points as well. That's right. This league campaign could go down to goal difference. That will be the first time in Premier League history that's ever happened. So now we've got to look at what's the goal difference situation between Man City and Arsenal. And you might think, because of Haaland, Man City must be destroying us on goal difference. Well, actually, it's interesting because whilst Man City, that was a Freudian slip actually, Man City, maybe that's a sign of good things to come. Anyway, didn't mean to do that. If Man City think that they're smashing us on goal difference, well, actually, no, it's not the case. Because yes, they've got a machine in Haaland who's got 30 goals already in the Premier League. Arsenal have got 3 players to Man City's 1 in terms of players on double-digit goals. So in fact, we've only scored 3 goals less than them, but conceded 2 goals more. So we're 5 goals behind them in the goal difference stakes. They've got 1 more game additional to play as well. So it looks like it's going to be very, very difficult to catch them on goal difference, especially with how they score goals. It looks like we're hopeful that they need to drop points, or if Arsenal can make it 6 wins, 1 draw at the Etihad, and just that one last game. If we draw or win that game, the league title is ours. It's all on that game at the Etihad. Avoid defeat and the title should be ours. Keep backing the boys till the very end and we can achieve the first league title in 19 years. Thank you very much for watching. An unbelievable game against Liverpool. Hopefully next time round at West Ham, it's a much more easy regulation victory. West Ham will try and throw a spanner in the works, but fingers crossed we do the business and bounce back from these drop points with another 3 and another W at West Ham. Take care.